Oof! Oh, good. I made it out. Now, what do we got here?
Hey yo, get down, hurry!
Huh? Oof! Welcome to Valkyria Chronicles 4, where God has abandoned us, but at least we have anime on our side. Taking place in a parallel universe where Europe looks like this, Russia looks like this, and the British still exist.
Cause I live in a shithole!
When the world is entirely obsessed with one natural resource, its scarcity sparks the building powder keg that explodes into a full-blown resource war. The Second European War took place during the mid-20th century in Europa, between the Atlantic Federation and the East European Imperial Alliance over Ragnite. We followed the journey of Squad E of the 32nd Ranger Battalion, led by Lieutenant Claude Wallace. In a war where both sides are morally dubious, with no clear right or wrong, we must make difficult choices and commit some sacrifices. Prepare a list and check it twice, because we will be witnessing many human rights violations and war crimes in this adventure. The Geneva Convention will be a list of objectives when we dive into this game. We'll break through the Stalin line, get bogged down by winter, forced to retreat by overwhelming enemy counteroffensive, and get stuck in the cold without winter gear. Sounds familiar? Good. Then it's no use saying there will be a lot of civilian deaths in this war. Without further ado, I present to you Valkyria Chronicles 4. Valkyria Chronicles 4's gameplay works by flipping through a diary and clicking on the Polaroids that sometimes contain boobs and the blushing faces of anime girls. Clicking these Polaroids will throw you into a cutscene, or if you like a challenge, press the ones that have a map on them. This is how you navigate through the story and missions of Valkyria Chronicles 4. The gimmick here is that our journey, that means Squad E's journey, is chronicled by our twin commander, Lieutenant Claude Wallace. You can flip back and forth through the book and access previously seen cutscenes and replay battles. Speaking of the battles, let's talk about them. You begin an operation by deploying your soldiers, usually all of the main characters, along with several background characters. Why the protagonists exactly? Because they are leaders and provide an additional command point. I'll get to that briefly. Your soldiers are categorized into 4, maybe 5, perhaps 6, no 5, specialized classes. Those classes were the Scout, the Shock Troopers, the Snipers, the Lancers, the Engineers, and the Grenadiers. Oh wait, it is 6. Scouts are femboys that are fragile but can see far into the distance and run a similarly far distance, so they can escape the hands of the Discord mod. Shock Troopers are Reddit users from Arch's non-credible defense that charge towards the enemy with their machine guns, flamethrowers, and grenades to decimate them with shock and awe. Snipers are the gamers of this universe. They shrivel up from a single touch of social interaction, but really sweaty when it comes to killing people. The Lancers are 14th century knights that have been time traveled over into 1939 and are tasked to kill tanks with their lances that have an anti-tank rocket sticking at the end of it. Engineers are the beta version of the femboy scouts. Think of them as twinks instead, and they give out head in the form of ammunition restocking and field repairs. Finally, the Grenadiers. They usually erect their massive rod and point it up high into the sky, unabashed and unashamed. After a little while, mostly after lubricating the barrel of said rod, they give out the explosive surprises to those who don't expect it. Look, don't judge me. The only way I know how to describe these classes as simply as possible so even a horny lab chimp can understand it requires me to move into these dark corners. Alright, let's get into battle. After deploying your troops, you usually have the initiative by starting the turn, letting you quickly shift the layout of the battle to your advantage. To the top of your screen, there are medals. These medals are command points and allow you to move and attack with a single soldier. Think of them as the medals you need to give out to your troops once they inevitably die a gruesome death. War is hell. As I've said, your protagonists are leaders and add to the pool of command points if they are deployed. Furthermore, by expending a special point, you can control a leader that can boss 2 other soldiers to follow them, giving you more flexibility in moving more soldiers up. Each of the classes serves different roles, but the one thing they are all trained to do is to kill a man. Some are more potent than others at it, but a gun is a gun, and a bullet to the head isn't fun. Ooh, that rhymes. In a mission, you are given specific objectives to follow and complete, whether to capture the enemy camps, get to a certain point of the map, or kill a specific enemy unit. Each mission also brings a new geometry to learn, with the very different landscapes and opportunities you will encounter on the journey. It forces you to adapt to the environment, change up your tactics, and find weaknesses to exploit. When your soldiers are knocked down, they have 3 turns before Satan rises from the depths of hell and tucks them in for an eternal nap. Alternatively though, your enemy can accelerate that process by conducting a satanic ritual on the wounded soldier. All they need to do is walk up to them. Saving a soldier is easy. By walking another soldier, preferably into the same line of fire that wounded the first soldier, over to them, the medic will then appear and take them away. During the battle, you can have Claude shout out orders over the battlefield, giving out buffs, evacuating the crippled, healing the wounded, or giving a little extra explosive kick to your grenades. Another thing, each one of your soldiers possesses different quirks and personalities, which translates to potentials that awaken during battle. They are either 3 AM motivation or depression, giving your characters buffs and debuffs accordingly. These potentials can be changed by playing through squad stories, which are most of the time wholesome interactions between your PTSD-ridden soldiers. Upon the completion of a mission, you will be assigned a rank based on your performance in the battle. The higher the rank, the more bans and bitches you get. You use these bans and bitches in the headquarters. One way to spend is investing in the military-industrial complex so they give you more advanced gear. As for the bitches, you put your soldiers through a rigorous recreational vacation to Belize, and they'll come back a different person, trust me. You too can improve yourself with this video sponsor, Touch Grass. In this digital age, it's often easy to forget that there is an unexplored world outside of these walls. With Touch Grass, you will no longer miss out on life's joys. Start today by purchasing the shower package for $8.99, or go all out with the Get a Girlfriend package for $15.99. Use code INCEL for 30% off and tell them Hope sent you. Where was I? Oh yeah. Let's move on to the story. Spoilers for the rest of the video. To describe this game's story is physically impossible, but if I was forced to under threat of being shot, I'd describe it to be an extreme case of whiplash. Take this recollection with a grain of salt, but when I first booted up the game, I was met with the typical anime bullshit. Dialogue that sounds like it is written by a skinwalker, and characters that, well, quite unique, is pretty generic. But as I further went into the game, I finally got it. This game's story is perhaps the most meticulously assembled piece of literature in the history of mankind. I'm not joking. Our protagonists are Claude, Raz, Kai, Lena, and Riley. They all have their own histories together, their own personalities, and their own tragedies. But war truly changed them, and as Claude described it, unknown whether it was for the better. These characters changed throughout the game, but the more they did, the more they stayed the same. Claude evolved as a genius commander, yet is still the emotional and stricken by empathy rich kid. Lena killed her brother Kai after he manipulated her, yet by the war's end she's still alone and she needs to stay in hiding, arguably losing a lot more to the war. Riley forgave Claude for their past and grew up, but that childlike wonder and innovative flick she inherited from her father never left. As for Raz, he's a badass. Always was. Through that veil of being a douche, careless, and unable to handle his feelings, in the end, he's still a badass, and he went out like one. Now, I did say there are protagonists and everyone else, but the developers went to great lengths to introduce stories for the side characters as well. Entire stories that tell an experience members of Squad E went through, crossroads that they passed to become a better person. These people aren't just empty faces, they have grit behind them, a firm backstory to who they are now. And the war changed them too. Could be for the worse, could be for the better. Take Zyga, Raz's lapdog, and chase after his bro like a loyal puppy. But after Raz died, he had to take the mantle of his bro. But Raz will still be in his heart. Or take Vancy. Before the war, she was just like any other girl, cheerful and without a care in the world. After her old squad was butchered, leaving her the only survivor, she took up drinking to ease the pain, but it kept on haunting her. However, as a former elite, she will happily take up responsibility and be the best version of herself when it really counts. When you lose a squad member, they will leave memorabilia for you to keep. Vancy will give you an old photo. She had it in her drawer, buried underneath a bunch of junk. It shows Vancy smiling ear to ear amongst unfamiliar faces. And that really crushed me. The game makes you feel like these are people. Real people. Amidst the typical anime tropes, the writing for the characters and their individuality are great. Then the writing for their team building and becoming better people is also phenomenal. Valkyria Chronicles 4 is not an overarching story about a war, but the micro-stories that take place within that war. Particularly the micro-stories of Squad E's members. It is a chronicle of what these soldiers went through, what emotions they felt, what things they've lost, and what past has been uncovered. Okay, enough being serious, let's get back to being funny. When I first played this game, I never realized it. Never really came to mind. Infantry and armored vehicles, of course, are two of the most beloved methods of inciting violence. However, on my second playthrough, I looked at the sky and finally realized what was missing. A B-52 Stratofortress dropping high ordnance from 15,000 kilometers in the air. This seemingly lack of aircraft and air superiority isn't a mistake. In an age where tanks are run by blue magic and trucks are actually tuk-tuks, they haven't invented planes yet. There is not a single mention of an aircraft in this world. Therefore, they do not exist. I'm surprised that the United States of Finland is focusing more on creating nuclear weapons than just contracting the Wright brothers to build a thingamabob that flies. But the lack of indiscriminate bombing won't stop the unnecessary killing of civilians, because Rian was entirely doused in napalm and was subsequently burned to the ground by the Empire. The Federation launched Operation Northern Cross to counteract the Empire's advance, and after breaking through the Siegwall line, the Federation is on track to reach the Imperial capital Schwarzgrad before winter arrives. On a relaxing picnic to the city of Imhempt, followed by a mock battle between Squad E and Squad F that surprisingly didn't get both Claude and Minerva court-martialed, the first snow of winter fell on them. Seizing the opportunity, the Empire launched a counter-invasion and subsequently routed the Federation army. Without winter gear, short on supply, and freezing to death, the Federation stood no chance and retreated, broken and bitter. Honestly, can't be me. Should've built a supply hub, losers. Squad E and the Ranger Corps join in on the retreat as well, but a strange order requires them to move 150 kilometers west to the Empire's coast. An order is an order, so they go right ahead. Now, I'd like to introduce you to the man, the myth, the legend, Lieutenant Colonel Vols of Ausbruch. He is undoubtedly the most fun character I have ever seen in any video game. No one can top Raz, but Vols' existence challenges his throne of being the most batshit character. He's charming and broody, considers Claude his soulmate, loves the battlefield, yet he's not arrogant. Even though he's a big womanizer, he respects women to the deepest corners of his heart. His lines are just too good to hate as well. He's entirely a JoJo reference, and I am on board his black tank of insanity. Anyway, Squad E starts the long track west, and on the way they have to kill Imperials with several avalanches while drifting tanks on ice. They then come across a logistics base that's supplying the Imperial war effort in Gallia, so they put their probably most likely important mission of rendezvousing with the rest of the Rangers on the coast to eliminate the base. What's next? Whoa! Dude, you can't just spoil the entire story like that. Who the fuck are you? I'm you, but that's beside the point, man. Valkyria Chronicles 4 is just too good to be spoiled like this, man. Well, yeah, I guess that's true. Okay, good. Now how about you just tell the audience how you feel about the game? Good idea. But first... I'm going to keep this extremely brief because I have a schedule I need to catch up to. I love Valkyria Chronicles 4. It manages to steer away from some of the typical anime tropes while still being anime as fuck. The writing for the world it takes place in isn't that good, but makes up for it with Squad E's journey and its individual soldiers. The music isn't special, but it is special to me. I will never forget Squad E Marches On or State of Emergency as I let 5 soldiers bleed out on the battlefield. The visuals are surprisingly good. The graphics aren't close to AAA, but I am glad that it adopted its own unique style rather than being close to Genshin Impact. The missions are all quite challenging and you have to rack your brain sometimes. It isn't some slog you need to get through though, since all of the battles are short, so you don't have to worry about being stuck for too long. In the end, what made this game alive isn't the story, isn't the visual, isn't the music, hell, not even the plot. What truly made this game what it is the characters. They're the ones that take all of this together. Valkyria Chronicles 4 is an experience and a half, and it will hold a very special place in my heart. With that, I give it a personal rating of 9 out of 10. I highly recommend you go play it. It's extremely underrated. Thank you very much for watching.